Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Tom. I am a full-time eBay reseller and I am a stay-at-home dad for my 5 kids. This video is going to be a little bit different because holy cow did I hit a lick on a bolo, and I know I left money on the table, but these sold so high and so quick that I'm excited whether or not I made all of the money. I'm sure people are going to tell me, holy cow, you sold those so cheap, I can't believe. But if you've been with the channel a while, you know how I roll. So I spent $60 the other day with a guy who had this mask, and I show up to pick it up and I'm just kind of poking around. I was like, what about these other masks? And he's like, give me $50 for the whole box. Not knowing what I had exactly in my hand and pulling out a bunch of like cheap stuff, I was like, well, how about 40 bucks? And he said, fine. Had I known what it was, I would have not negotiated down. I actually thought about sending him some more money and being like, hey, I made more money than either of us expected me to. It's somebody that I deal with a lot back and forth, and I like to keep a good relationship, and I don't want to knock the guy's price down and then make crazy money. I made probably $700 or $800 on this deal. So I was picking through these masks and I was coming up with stuff like this. Frankenstein cartoony, Frankenstein cheapy, like this neat looking mummy girl. I guess in my head, I guess maybe it's the headdress that makes me think that it's like a bride woman zombie witch thing. And so when he's said 50 bucks, I was like, let me do 40. And because these things are not money makers. Turns out that lot, I think that's the whole lot, sold for 25 bucks. There's a couple more. There's this and this. So that lot sold for $25. There was a handful of throwaway things, but then there were masks that you probably aren't familiar with. I wasn't familiar with. Maybe you are. Maybe when I made the thumbnail and the title, that's what drew you to this, because you're like, hey, I love Don Post and Distortion Unlimited stuff, and I want to come see what this guy has. Welcome to the channel. I'm a reseller. I buy things, I flip them, I get excited about them, especially when it's stuff like this. This is art, man. This is beautiful. You guys saw the first thing that sold out of this was these hands, and they were just a beautiful sculpt. They said Topstone as the name brand on them, and they sold for 45 in hours. So I probably had them at the bottom of the market. I remember I paid, including the Star Wars mask, I paid $60 for everything. I paid $40 for everything you're going to see here, including the hands that sold for 45 already. This is Hydra by Distortion Unlimited, and then you can't make it out on here. It's hard to make out in person, but it says 1985. And so I had no idea. Google Lens was no help with this. It's a vinyl mask. It kind of feels like latex, but vinyl and latex are different enough that it makes a difference. This one's gonna be around a long time. It's not gonna deteriorate the way that a latex mask would. A lot of detail on this. You can see here where there is some residue from old hair. He would have had some hair. And so I typed in Distortion Unlimited 1985 and I just start looking through images, and then I see this catalog. And I notice a creature that looks very similar to this. So I started doing a little bit of research. I looked and searched and hunted, and I couldn't find a sale for that. So then I looked for the other Distortion Unlimited things from the 80s, and they seem to sell somewhere short of 200 bucks. So I put $169 plus shipping on that one, and I pulled this one up. And this one, you can't really make out, even in person. There's this stamp, but it really just, even in person, it's just muddled enough that you can't really tell what it says. This is But when I found that Distortion Unlimited from that one, I continued just digging, trying to figure it out. And I'm not spending hours. You guys know, I'm not going to spend hours researching something. I'm going to put a price on it. I'm going to let it sell. I'm going to make the money, and I'm going to move on. But this guy came up on another Distortion Unlimited catalog. And so they're from the same year, the same company. This one is from, I think, Shadow was the line. And I'll put the image up here. The other one was from Twilight. And so they are definitely super good, crazy pieces that you need to keep an eye out for. These are Distortion Unlimited, and they are just beautiful sculpts and in not great shape. They need cleaned up. This guy has the hair left on him. That guy would have had similar, just like patchy mess hair. I think he probably would have had less. But beautiful, beautiful, crazy masks that just, you're not going to find something like this kind of quality. And at $169 a piece, I think my buyers are going to be pretty happy with those. These gloves, I know I undervalued them on purpose. They are latex and they are stiff pancakes. They're supposed to be 3-finger, like alien looking gloves, but they are, they're so stiff that you couldn't get your hands into them. And Levi and I made a video where we put hot water on them and we massaged them, but they just went straight back to being hard. So I think basically I just listed them so that someone who knows what they're doing would buy them for $10 and they would take care of them and make them something. This guy I listed for $90 and he sold in a hurry. It appears to me to be a Don Post style mask just from some of the earmarks. And I don't know if it is a Don Post. I don't know how to find out because it's not marked at all. And I couldn't find any similar to it. But it's a cool, highly detailed vinyl mask, probably from the middle 80s. Very cool piece. Vintage Halloween stuff is masks. Like, not, there's some 90s stuff. There's like this ghost face mask from Easter Unlimited, but not really high dollar stuff in that 90s where you'd want your t-shirts and your hats to be like 90s. 70s, 80s are really good on this old mask stuff. This is the piece de resistance. I listed him for $250. It is a Nosferatu, which I just recognized the character because the sculpt is so good. And then it says, let me see if I can make it to where you guys can see that. Don Post, right here. Don Post Studios. And there were sold comps for this over $200. I listed it for $250. And this is a blue-gray color. I couldn't find ones that were this blue-gray color. I could only find ones that were flesh tone, like this my coloring. I couldn't find any that were this blue-gray. I listed it for $250. Somebody sent me a $180 offer, and maybe I shouldn't have jumped at it, but I did. And so these masks, 4 masks, all sold all at once, and I ended up at almost $800 that day. So masks, man, vintage Halloween full head vinyl masks, and so I've been kind of just digging because it's fun. There's a whole community. I mean, there's a whole community around a lot of collectibles, but there are people who are just crazy passionate about this stuff. People who have, like, I have a bunch of boxes. They would just have this wall full of masks behind them talking about how cool this stuff is. And it's exciting thing to get into. I have one more that I'm going to be able to grab since I've been doing the research and figuring out what I have. But I just wanted to show you guys these Don Post and Distortion Unlimited full head masks, vinyl and latex from the 70s and 80s. Don't pass them up. I sold them all for the right around just $200 shipped is where I was on all of them, and they all sold as fast as I could list them. So that's just something to keep in mind. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you learned something. Let's get into the Goodwill trip with Evelyn from the other day. I have 37 items to ship out, including a bunch of masks. And so I'm going to shoot you another video now, but I wanted to touch on these masks before we did much of anything else. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you.